Hello and welcome to the Clan Blue podcast post-match reaction. My name's Dan Rolinson, and as you can see, Frankie Maguire joins us once again to talk all things Aston Villa. This evening, unfortunately, is a defeat for Unai Emery's side away at Nottingham Forest, which is, insert cliche here, a bad day at the office, not our day, etc. Frustrating, bloody irritating, I would say. Frankie, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Feeling a bit philosophical after that loss. It's not, I've seen worse, but it was a frustrating one for sure.
Yeah, I think the message for this podcast, I think we're going to just do 15, 20 minutes or so. We're going to be doing another show tomorrow where we look at all things Aston Villa. And I will say, actually, we'll probably do a Q&A. Part of the show will be a Q&A. So if you've got questions for me and John or Matt and you want to put those towards us, get involved in the comments of this video. But I think 15, 20 minutes tonight is enough just to get it out of our system, to just talk about it a little bit. But I don't think it needs a proper debrief in the sense of let's overanalyze it. I've got a couple of numbers I'll look at in a second, but got a cup of tea, just sit back, kind of calm down a little bit. I don't think there's reason for meltdown. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think generally the reaction I've seen online has been quite philosophical about it. I've grown used to the years of Villa losing, and it feels a bit, everyone gets very angry and very annoyed, and as I do, But I think today, it was just that from the moment the second goal went in, you just kind of felt as if it was just sinking back into my seat, feeling I don't think this is happening for us today.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just what happens. And I think it will happen to a few teams at the City Ground, because Nottingham Forest, Steve Cooper is a very canny manager. And I think they've had disappointing results at home this season against sides that are sort of in the more of the relegation scrap. But I think Forest sometimes play quite well against sides that are a bit higher up the table, and they can sort of sit back and hit you on the counter. And Steve Cooper's a canny manager, and today I think he would have looked at it and gone, first 15 minutes, if there can be high energy, the crowd's up for it, and if they can get a goal, then that makes Villa's day quite difficult. And they got that early goal. Second half as well, it kind of followed exactly the same pattern where you're thinking, right, Villa, there was one or two signs of life in the first half of Villa where you thought, all right, we've got loads of possession. I think we had over 70% of possession. But we just weren't clinical enough at all. But you're sort of thinking second half, if we keep up that possession, surely a chance will come. Just don't concede early. And that's exactly what we went and did. And very surprising second goal, to be honest. But yeah, it was just a day where I think Steve Cooper would say, a job very well done. And I think full credit to Forest for how they structured their team defensively. But Villa, it's just a rare off day in front of goal. We just weren't clinical enough.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, first of all, I want to say congratulations to Forest. Like, beating Villa is this huge achievement. We're obviously a better side than they are as an overall. And they did their job, didn't they? And that's obviously going to be changed by the early goal in the first half. And if you treat the game like two halves, you concede an early goal at the start of the second as well, which kind of everything you would have spoken about at half time, that goes out the window as well. So Villa have had chances to reassess and take stock of where they are, going a goal behind it and adapt to that. And do so in the first half, get through half time and discuss what we're going to change for the second. Bring Bailey on, swap Zaniolo out. We'll try something different. Then you can see it again 2 minutes into the second half, and all that planning goes out the window as well. So yeah, thoroughly frustrating and annoying. But one of those days I don't think we'll see too often under Unai Emery. But I think the away form generally is probably creeping up to be a little bit more of a concern than I would like it to be. We need to start winning on the road more often.
Yeah, that's true. Our four, I guess, if you include the loss of Warsaw, annoying losses this season so far, all been away. And the Newcastle game, you could write it off as a bit of a freakish occurrence. What happened with Mings and first day of the season, and it just, it just wasn't our day. Liverpool away, they outclassed us. I thought they were very well structured. And then today, Forest again. I think you're right. I think the away form is a bit of a, I don't know, it's one of them that we're just going to see as the season progresses on, I guess, and it's one that I think Emery will definitely be thinking about a lot.
I mean, we were good under Emery, weren't we? Away from home. I saw a stat earlier from AVFC Stato. Said each of Aston Villa's last 5 defeats in the Premier League from away from home, including all 3 of their losses this season. Emery's side have won 2 of their last 10 away games in the Premier League, while losing half of those, drawn 3, lost 5. Something to work on. We were good away from home. That was the thing that Emery sorted first. So we looked good away from home, and it was that the home form didn't match that. And we've kind of flipped reverse of that now, that we're very good at home, and I expect us to be when we play Fulham next Sunday. But for some reason, we can't get things going on the road. We look like two different sides, I think, home and away, which is bizarre and not something I expect from an Unai Emery team.
Yeah, exactly. I think today as well, it just felt a little bit like just couldn't work our way through at all. And I think that if a team sort of sits deep against us at Villa Park, I really back us to tear them apart, like we did say with Everton, who tried to do that. But just away, I'm not sure what it is, whether it's just, I don't know, the crowd noise or the opposition just having a good game plan, whatever it is. I'd be interested to know what Unai Emery thinks about that, like why just suddenly away from home our form has kind of dropped off a little bit, and whether I don't know whether teams just like today, Forest game plan very much felt like pack the centre of the pitches. They tried to do it at Villa Park last season, which so it was quite difficult to get too much of the ball in the centre, and then they would just jump on our players, and as soon as they won the ball, try and break the high line with quick balls over the top. And fairness to Villa, we did catch them offside a lot, or just hit Walanga and hope he'd get in behind. And I wonder if a lot of teams are sort of twigging that might be the way to play Villa when they're playing away. So yeah, it's certainly one for Emery to. Like I said, I'd like to know what his thoughts are on that and why that might be happening at the moment.
And part of it for today specifically is the way the goals went. I think if you're 0-0 at half time and you can grow into the game a little bit, I think you probably see a different Aston Villa to concede so early in the first half through not a fluky goal, but two long range efforts, both of them, and then concede again early in the start of the second. Let's just talk through the goals very quickly. The first one, Forest had, they made the move that they did. It comes to in acres of space that I think Douglas Luiz should be closing down better than he did. And they were checking for offside, weren't they, with Awani in possible offside for Martinez's eye line. But it turned out really it was more so Pau Torres in his eye line than anything, and he just didn't really see it. I don't think you can put too much of the blame on the first goal for Martinez, but the way the chance came about in the first place is probably where we can be more critical of Villa, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I say, like that first 15 minutes just got to be very, very focused and very combative, because you just know that's when Forest are going to try and get that early goal, put Villa under a lot of pressure. Just go into the game fully concentrating, fully at it, and I think it's kind of a sloppy ball somewhere out on our right hand side. Comes to Alanga and he just gets in behind Cash, and that was always the worry today. I thought was Alanga might just find that space in behind Cash, and the fact he found it so early on, he gets forward, pulls it back. I think it's Toffolo. I don't know whether that was coached to Forest, because Toffolo did that twice. The second goal was also Toffolo, pulling it back, not knocking it into the area, but pulling it back to the edge of the area for a midfielder to come racing onto. It's frustrating that the first goal and the second goal, both of them, like you said, INE had a lot of space to take that shot. A bit too much space, far too much space really in the Premier League, I think. But both goals were kind of, you'd call it low XG goals, not goals you'd massively expect us to concede. The first one, in fairness, I thought was a good finish. The second one, though, I think Emi Martinez, I've been praising him fully. I love Emi Martinez. Very, very rare that he'll ever make a mistake. But as soon as he went for that dive with one hand, I was quite confused by it, because I thought, it's not like him, there's not many players in his way. It's not
he normally catches stuff like that.
Exactly. It was just a really weird decision from him, a rare, odd decision. So both goals, particularly the second one at the start of the second half, it just, like I say, low XG goals. And first one, all right, it happens. Second one, it was just a bit of a calamity of errors. We could have cleared it beforehand, didn't, and then it just finds its way back to the. Was it Mangala, I think, scored it? Just you'd expect, as you say, you expect Emi Martinez to make those saves, and on that one occasion he didn't.
Yeah, and we all love Emi Martinez, of course, and there's no one who'll be more frustrated with conceding the goals in the way that he has than Emi Martinez. We've heard before, haven't we, about him losing sleep over not keeping clean sheets, which, let's face it, he's not keeping many of those this season. So, there was the one the other week, wasn't there, of it bouncing off the back of his head and going in, and that will annoy him. And the second goal particularly will be one where he thinks, I should have done better there. There's no way that should be going in, really. And this is probably a minor point in the grand scheme of things, but what Forest did to us with those two goals, taking efforts from longer range, something that I thought Villa should probably be doing more of. That their keeper made his debut today, which is again, it's probably a bit of a fan down the pub thing to say, to just go, we'll have a shot at him, just like see what he can handle kind of thing. But do that. Like Villa tried to overcomplicate it, I thought, going forward a little bit, where there were moments where I felt you could have just gone, just shoot from there, just have a pop shot, just see what happens. And that probably is a bit of a man down the pub point, but that's what this podcast is.
Exactly. I mean, Villa did have chances. It's not like we played really badly or anything.
No.
That we had a lot of loads of possession. Did carve out chances, but it was always a bit like could have been, should have been, nearly, almost. It would be moments like, I think there was one occasion where the ball did come to Tielemans on the edge of the area and he took the shot and it went over. I think that was symptomatic kind of our finishing today. It was unusually not clinical. But that was like one of few occasions I can remember where we actually took a long range shot. And then a couple of occasions, maybe Bailey would get the ball, and then instead of just hitting it with his weaker right, he'd just try and cut inside, and then Forest would have defenders back to cover it. And then Watkins having a header that he didn't take. There'd be moments where Dean was out left, and he had a lot of I think first half it was the left hand side was where Villa were having some joy getting forward. And I've been saying for a while, I do miss Moreno. I think there's just a dynamism he brings that I think, as well as Dean's been playing this season, he doesn't quite have the same. It doesn't quite do it for me in the way Moreno does. Not to get at him or anything, but I think there were occasions today I thought Moreno would have been very useful. But so, like I say, just odd decisions in certain places in the final third, and Forest defended very well in fairness to them as well. But just moments where we just didn't take that shot when we should have taken it.
And we allowed Forest to defend well because the way the game had gone. If you're going to let them score early doors in both halves, they're going to sit back and be delighted with that. And they did what they're good at. They did that job very well. Just on the finishing, a couple of comments from LJF Mac, who said, we've definitely seen worse, but it's a reality check. Wasteful with the ball and not enough cutting edge. Lack of physicality cost us as well. We need Moreno and Ramsey back. I think that last sentence in particular is something that we've all been crying out for what feels like weeks, to be honest. Even when we play well, you think, well, if we play well, we're going, we need them back because we need squad depth and we need options. And when we don't play well, we need them back because they need to be in the team. And Paul, today we couldn't hit a barn door, and made me laugh with a follow-up comment. In fact, we'd have missed the entire farm, which I think is probably true. I think we could still be playing now, to be honest, and still not score. And as I said earlier with the cliches, it's just one of those days, isn't it, Frankie?
Yeah, completely. Just one of them, and not one to get too mad about. I think Forest are going to do that to a few sides this season at the City Ground. But just one of them where I think with Villa, I think the away form is something now that Emery will be looking at and wanting to address quite soon. But also one of them where on another day, maybe we wouldn't have conceded early, and maybe, like Zaniola's chance in the first half might have gone in, and just one of them where a day where a chance might have gone in would have just made a big difference. Yeah.
You mentioned at the very top of the show about being more philosophical about it rather than any cause for a meltdown. And I'm inclined to agree. There was a comment earlier from Chris who says, look where we were before Unai came in and where we are now. Let's keep some perspective. And I totally agree with that. I'm not one to come on here and be going, we've lost today. It's a disgrace. We need to change this. We need to do that. It's just not the case. These things will happen. And John said it in our preview show, which I shouldn't really bring up because for the people that didn't see it, his prediction was, to be fair, it was 3-1 Villa, but he did say this could be one of those games where we draw and it's frustrating and we hit the bar and these things just happen. And I went, don't be silly, 5-0 Villa. I won't be doing that again. I won't be doing that again this season because I've clearly cursed us. But I just felt like we're due to beat somebody. And one of the comments said, beat somebody like well. One of the comments said, you're saying that after we've just beaten Brighton and West Ham. But I think subconsciously I meant away from home. Like I want to see a big performance away from home at some point. But I would have absolutely taken a scrappy 1-0 today, of course. But yeah, just one of those days, I think, is the overarching message from this show. And if it wasn't titled Post-Match Reaction, Forest 2, Villa 0, it would be Villa just have one of those days. Let's all calm down. No need to panic, which is the longest YouTube title in history. I really like some of Unai Emery's post-match comments, and I won't read them all because there is a lot of it. But when we do our post-match, our Monday show tomorrow, we'll probably dive into these a little bit. But his overall message is, these things happen. We've made mistakes. It's very hard to accept that result. We're human. We can make mistakes. I'm never going to punish the mistakes of players because I want to try and get everybody to have confidence. I butchered that a little bit, but his message is, it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter, but they will work on the things that cause problems, and he's not going to berate the players for making mistakes because they happen.
Yeah, and that's it. He's one of what's so brilliant about him as a manager is that you're just somebody that you sense as is so capable at identifying what the problem was in individual areas of the game today. We take them aside and tell players in a way that they'll want to listen and they will learn from it. And just a couple of things today that I think, like I say, just one of them where if you're just taking a shot from 30 yards and it deflected in, it's a totally different game. And just nothing to be too, as Emery says there, basically. We don't want to lose. We don't get into the habit of being happy about losing, but every now and again, you are going to have a result where a day like this happens.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier when we first started that, and this is from a tweet that I saw, when we do lose games this season, we tend to go on and either win or have a good result following it. So we lost to Newcastle, of course, and then beat Everton, Burnley and Hibs. We lost to Liverpool and beat Palace. We lost in Warsaw and beat Chelsea. Lost to Everton in the Cup and beat Brighton. And then drew at Wolves and beat West Ham and AZ Alkmaar. So you would go from the back of that we lose Nottingham Forest and we beat Alkmaar and we beat Fulham, and that's what I'm expecting. I think we'll play well in the 2 home games upcoming and go into the international break on form again. And today will be the blip and it won't kind of happen again, I don't think. I just want to touch on a comment from Adam who said the subs were a bit weird. I agree with this to a certain extent. Diego Carlos and Dendoncker coming on when trailing 2-0. Why not bring Traore and Moreno on? Now, Traore is one that I think we've spoken about before. It's a bit of a wild card. Maybe you could have done something out of nothing, but don't really want to rely on him. I think at that point, bringing Moreno on, if he's not quite ready, that puts him further back and his injury setbacks would have been a waste. But the subs in particular, bringing Cash off, I thought was the right thing to do because I don't think he had a great game. Konsa drops into right back, kind of like a third centre back almost on the right hand side. But then he comes off for Tielemans and Diego Carlos comes on and Konsa goes to right back. And that one was the one that felt a little bit strange to me. Putting Kamara back, why not just change that to Tielemans earlier? But who knows more than me.
Yeah. I did see a couple of people mention at halftime they thought maybe they could switch Diaby and Zaniolo. That wasn't an idea that came into my head. I just saw it on Twitter floating around, and I thought, it could have been interesting to see that. But the glaring thing I thought first half was that Matty Cash sort of playing effectively as more of a right winger. One-on-one situations, I think there are occasions sometimes when a team sits deep, he's not massively confident going out at fullback, and it just felt like he was never getting past Toffolo today. So I think bringing Bailey on to put further at right was the right call, and I think Bailey and Diaby had a couple of nice moments linking up, but again, I think both of them were slightly guilty of just overthinking it instead of shooting at times. So I think was actually the right one. And I sort of think with one or two of the others with Dendoncker coming, I think it was with Douglas Luiz, maybe in the 85th minute. I do wonder. I partly wonder if it's slightly trying to manage the game load with the Europe midweek and stuff like that as well. And Douglas Luiz is playing a lot of football. He's certainly the player I think is going to be on the most. But the Kamara one that slightly worried me when he got that yellow card, and I think there was one after it as well where Elanga nearly got round him, and it was like, I think he's going to have to come off very, very soon, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just one of those games today. There's a comment here from Sai who says, we're still fifth. It's a reality check, but we move on. And one from I'm Rana who says, need to change tactics away from home. 6 goals scored away from home and 20 at home was a stat that I saw earlier as well during the game. I think it was. They flashed it up on screen during the game, and I was hopeful that 6 goals away from home might increase during this game, but obviously it didn't. And that is something to be slightly concerned about. The away form is not as good as the home, but the home form is excellent. So it's going to be very tough to match that. But 6 goals versus 20, there's clearly something for Emery and the team to work on. And I've got ultimate faith in those guys to do that. Like, I don't think we'll see many games like we've just seen there. And as much as the away form hasn't been great all season, 2 of those are Liverpool and Newcastle, and kind of take them out a little bit. But I think going forward over the course of the season, our away form will be better than it is at the moment, and I trust in Emery to fix whatever the problem is.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will certainly get better. I think we've got Tottenham away. Maybe that's our next away Premier League game. That's a big game. That's a big one where, how do we approach that? Maybe I don't know. Do we play better against the Tottenham who are a bit more progressive than Forest who try and step back? So Definitely a very interesting game, and one I'm not quite sure how to call yet. We did a great job there last season against them, but that was a Conte side, so this is a very different one already. So yeah, but that's one to talk about in a week or so, I guess.
Yeah, and like I said before, I fully expect us to bounce back against AZ out Mark Villa Park and to beat Fulham as well on the Sunday. Then we have, it's an international break, isn't it? And then Tottenham is the next game, which is away from home. So time to fix the wrongs, and hopefully Jacob Ramsey and Alex Moreno are back fit and ready to play and possibly start even against Tottenham. That would be a huge boost for us. Frankie, I said we'd only do 20 minutes or so, and we've hit that marker now. So let's wash this one out of our system a little bit.
Yeah.
Although we will be doing a secondary podcast tomorrow where no doubt we'll speak about Forest a little bit, but I don't think there's a reason for a meltdown and to be overly analytical of what we've seen. Maybe there is more at play here, but I think for me, I've said it once, I've said it a million times. It's one of those games where it'll just go down as a frustrating one. But if we win the next 2 or 3 off the back of it, kind of we'll shrug our shoulders as I just did then and say, yeah, fair enough. Let's just move on. So Frankie, thank you very much for joining me this evening, filling in for Matt Kendrick. Like I said, we'll be doing a second podcast tomorrow, which is Monday, probably about 10, 11 o'clock. So if you want to get involved with that one and suggest a topic for discussion or a question, scroll down and leave it in the comments down below, and we'll read those out tomorrow. And that show will be out tomorrow as well. And then and following show after that will be the AZ Alkmaar post-match on Thursday evening. So that's kind of the schedule for this week. Thank you, Frankie. Thank you, everyone, for watching and tuning in this evening or after the fact. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Up the Villa.